My girlfriend told me she was with a friend, but that friend was with me picking out an engagement ring. How do I confront my girlfriend about her lie? God, this is a doozy. I swear my life feels like a movie right now. I am a 28-year-old man, and I'm planning on proposing to my girlfriend of 3 years, who is 26. Now, I suck at picking out jewelry. I'm the type of guy that doesn't see a problem with heart-shaped jewelry. Seriously, why is it considered so ugly? So every time I want to buy something for my girl, I usually consult one of our mutual friends. My girl's best friends are all friends with me as well, and we all get along well, so asking them for help picking out jewelry is something I'm used to. When it came time to pick out a ring, I consulted my girlfriend's best friend, Justine. Justine and I are quite close, and she knows my girlfriend better than anyone, including me. So, when my girlfriend went out to visit her sister and baby nephew, I invited Justine over to the house to help pick out a ring. Justine and I looked through a few catalogs, but decided it was a dead end and it would be better to go to professionals at a jewelry store. However, I didn't know when my girlfriend would be coming home, so Justine and I thought of a clever text to gauge how much time we had. I asked her when she'd be coming home, as I was ordering takeout and wanted to know when to tell them to have the food ready by. She responded by saying it would be a few hours. She just met up with Justine to go shopping. Now, obviously this took me by surprise, since Justine was standing inside my house. I showed her the text, and she looked as confused as I was. It isn't out of the ordinary for my girlfriend to meet up with people out of the blue like that for shopping, lunch, etc. She's a very spontaneous person and loves making plans on the fly. So ordinarily, I would have believed this text in a heartbeat. However, obviously this had to be a lie. When she came home that evening, she acted completely normally, and I played along, but it's been really hard to act like everything's fine. We got takeout, ate together, and cuddled on the couch after. So far, she's caught on a little that something's upsetting me, but I just can't tell her what. Looking at her kills me. I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have zero trust issues, and we tell each other everything, so this lie is killing me. I want to ask her about it so bad, but if I tell her I knew she was lying, I'd have to explain why, and I really don't want to do that. So what do? I know she lied to me, but I don't know how to confront her about it. Should I just forget it? This won't stop gnawing at me. Please help. Well, guys, the good news is that there is an update to this story that was posted just a few days later. But before we get into that, first of all, I want to give my quick fire advice. From my perspective, you should definitely tell her that you know she's lying. You don't have to say why you know she's lying or how you know she's lying. You can just say, I was with Justine. I know you weren't. No reason for it, just you were with her. Ultimately, you're about to propose to this woman, right? So you want her to be in your life for a long time. Therefore, this relationship has to have trust. So I think the only solution is to tell her that you know. If it goes south, okay, that's a real shame, but at least you know before marrying her. Whereas if you just leave it and never mention it, then this is always going to be on your mind for the foreseeable future. You have to tell her. Right then, on to the update. Hey guys. Oh my god, where to begin? My last post got way more attention than I could have ever imagined. Suffice to say, it was a tad bit overwhelming. Seriously, the amount of people begging for an update was a bit dehumanizing in a way. Like, I wasn't a person going through something, but more so a story, but I understand. I can't help that I'm kind of contributing to that. But anyway, it's an interesting story. Here we go. I decided to confront my girlfriend. Good stuff. I thought about using some of the lies that people suggested, but they just wouldn't make sense. To say I ran into Justine somewhere, well, I told my girl I had to stay home and do stuff around the house, and that's why I couldn't go with her to see my sister-in-law. Makes sense. To say Justine was helping me pick out jewelry, well, it doesn't make sense for her to come all the way to our house to help me pick out a piece of jewelry unless it was a serious piece of jewelry like an engagement ring. If I just wanted to get her a piece of jewelry as a gift, I'd ask her friends for suggestions or ask them to send me pictures of jewelry she might like, all over text. So none of the excuses made sense. So I had to be honest. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that. That does make sense. There has to be a real reason why you're meeting up with her when you said that you were going to be at home. Anyway, I basically just said that I knew we'd been thinking about marriage, and she probably knew a proposal was coming soon. So I invited Justine over to help me find her the perfect ring, and that so happened to be the day that she said she was going to see her. So what's the deal? She immediately started grinning like an idiot and prodding me about proposing and the ring. But then we got back onto the topic of where she was, and she confessed what she was really doing. No, she wasn't cheating, and no, she wasn't picking out a ring for me. The amount of times that was commented was crazy. So, some people are dog people and some people are cat people. Well, me, I'm a snake person. I grew up with snakes my whole life, but I never felt I was able to get one because my girlfriend has always been uneasy about living with a snake, which I completely respected. Also, the process of buying and raising a snake is very different than that of buying and raising a dog or cat. It's quite complicated. So you could imagine my surprise when my girlfriend showed me a picture of her holding the cutest Kenyan sand boa I have ever seen. Needless to say, my girlfriend was going to surprise me with a snake. We're picking her up next week. Let me know if you want a pet tax. She's so cute. I definitely did not expect this, and I feel bad for ruining the surprise, but oh well, life is good. Sorry if this isn't the ending you guys wanted or expected, just a snake. Well, definitely not the ending I was expecting. I was expecting a lot worse, not gonna lie. I was very worried for you, my friend. But hey, what an ending. Now, if you guys have been watching my videos and listening to my stuff for a long time, you may well know that I myself do have a pet snake called Marty. He's a very old boy right now. You know what? I'll chuck on some footage right now on screen of me with him. Might even be a couple of years ago now. But look at him. He is a sensational little boy. And he's very old and very inactive. And it's also the middle of the day right now, so I can't get him. He's a nocturnal one. But yeah, you know, snakes, they're interesting pets. If you don't have time for dogs or cats, or you want to travel and stuff, I would recommend. There you go. Great story, let's carry on. All right, next story. My fiance is convinced I have a crush on my friend's husband. My best friend Sarah, who is 26, and her husband Matt, who is 28, have put me in a very difficult position with my fiance, Jack, who is 30. I knew Matt since my childhood. He was my neighbor and we were friendly. Sarah and I were roommates in college and became close friends. When I introduced Sarah and Matt, they hit it off and started dating each other. I was happy to see two of my friends get together, but also annoyed that I became the third wheel and was often ignored or set aside because they were so into each other. By the time I graduated, Matt had completely dropped me as a friend. That saddened me, but I was still good friends with Sarah, so it was what it was. Sarah and I would frequently hang out, but I never talked with Matt other than the occasional polite hellos. Sarah would sometimes try to do couples dates with her and Matt and me and my dates. I found that Matt had developed an unpleasant personality and would frequently be rude and condescending towards me. However, he's a very devoted and loving husband to Sarah, so for her sake, I ignored him. When my fiance and I got engaged, we had no plans to do a party. Sarah was disappointed that we didn't throw an engagement party, so she organized a small get-together at her home to celebrate us. The party was nice, and as things were winding down, my fiance and I went to thank Sarah and Matt for their sweet gesture before we took our leave. Matt was pretty tipsy by then, and out of nowhere, he suddenly hugged me, and in front of my fiance, said that he was so glad that I was finally settling down, and he is relieved that now I'll be over the crush I had on him. I was shocked and told him that wasn't true. He just laughed and told Jack that I was always chasing him and he had to work hard to keep me away. I dragged Sarah in and asked her to please fix this mess. And she was all like, oh, he's drunk, ignore him, and says, you know, I always trust you. I know you wouldn't act on your crush. Jack was pretty fuming at this point and he walked out. I ran after him and tried explaining that this isn't true, but he told me he doesn't want to be anyone's second choice or their backup plan. Since that night, he hasn't talked to me or returned my calls. I've talked to Sarah multiple times to clear things with Jack, but she's brushing me off. I don't understand why they believe this, or why she'd stay friends with me if she thought I was into her husband. I was in her wedding party and did all the work because her sister, who was the maid of honor, was too busy. I've helped her through her pregnancy and have babysat her kid so many times. She never gave me any indication she thought this, and why would she want me close to her family if she believed it? I feel humiliated that these people think I was pining away for a jerk like Matt. I need help in convincing Jack this isn't true. I'm also mad at him for throwing away our relationship over what some drunken idiot said. I don't know what I'm going to do about my friendship with Sarah. Again, update isn't coming, guys, but I want to give my quick thoughts on Jack's behalf, because imagine being in his position. Your fiance's two oldest friends that you know of, really, are saying that she fancied and maybe even still has a crush on someone else. You kind of have to believe that, don't you? Like, why would two different people say it? It's not as if it's just one drunk person. Their wife is also backing it up. That's a mental thing to say. I've got no idea why Sarah and Matt are doing this or why they believe this when it's clearly not true, and in fact, it's the actual opposite. But yeah, I feel for Jack on this one, even more than I feel for you, to be fair. That's not really true. I feel for both of you, but yeah, from Jack's perspective, it's going to be hard to believe you when you have your two oldest friends saying these things. All right, then, moving on to the update. And also, just remember that I'm also called Jack, so that's why I back the bloke. Anyway, here we go. I talked to Sarah again and asked her, first of all, why she'd think I had a crush on Matt. She said that when I first introduced them, I talked up Matt and gushed about him, and she took that as me being into him. I said I was fond of him since I've known him for a long time, but that doesn't mean I want to be with him. She said when they started dating, I was often upset about it. I said I wasn't upset about their dating, I was upset that she'd make plans with me and then leave me to be with him. And when we were all together, I didn't enjoy being the third wheel while they ignored me. That had nothing to do with wanting him, and more to not liking being left out by my best friend. I asked her why she hadn't said anything before, and she explained that she could manage the situation. She'd asked Matt to stop talking to me completely, and she engineered situations so there was little chance of us socializing with each other. Wow, sounds like maybe Sarah was the instigator of all of this. I asked her, now that I have explained that I never had a crush on Matt, can you please talk to Jack and tell him? She said she didn't want to lie. This frustrated me immensely. She could ignore this imaginary crush for years and manipulate me, but won't talk to my fiance to help my relationship? I told her I was done being her friend. Thinking back, I was always doing stuff for her and she used me, but did little for me. So, I wrote a long letter to Jack explaining the entire history of my relationship with Sarah and Matt, with the recent screen caps. I asserted as best as I could that I've never pined after any guy, and I loved him, and he was my only choice. After days of silence, Jack agreed to talk to me. We met and he said that he sees two ways of interpreting the situation. One, Matt and Sarah are right and he doesn't want to be my second choice. Two, they are malicious people who are messing with me, and that shows very poor judgment on my part that I'd have a best friend like this and he doesn't want that quality in a life partner, and ultimately that either possibility leads to the same conclusion that he wants to call off the engagement. He reminded me that I'd represented Sarah as one of the most important people in my life. I'd jump up and help her all the time. I'd once cancelled plans with him to take care of her kid when the baby was sick. It had irked him, but he'd seen it as me being caring and nice. But now he's seeing all that in a different light. I cried and begged him not to end our engagement, but he wanted a break for a while. I thought over what he said for a few days and came to realise that he was right. I was a clingy friend and a doormat. I never even saw how one-sided my friendship with Sarah was. I was a doormat with Jack too. I didn't want to get married or have kids this early, but I agreed to his timelines. I gave up an exciting job opportunity with more money because he didn't want me traveling for work. I love him, but I need to fix myself and be stronger. So, I gave back his ring and I ended things. I returned all the gifts he gave me too. He was offended by that, but I didn't feel good about keeping the very expensive things he'd given me. He makes a lot more than me and was very generous with what he gave me, but I can't keep that now. Sarah was quiet for a while, but then started calling me. I ignored a lot of her calls, but this morning I answered one and told her about the breakup. I was looking for sympathy from my old friend, but she was more interested in knowing if I was still going to watch her kid while she and Matt went on an overnight trip. She got pretty angry when I said no. I blocked her now. So, I've lost my fiance, my best friend, and my relationship with my nephew, whom I adored, all in one go. But still, I'm thankful for the comments that showed this wasn't something I could fix and helped me rip off the band-aid and walk away from this mess. Yeah, apart from the fact I've absolutely no idea where to even begin with this one. I feel like your entire life has just been completely flipped in a matter of days. Where do you even... What? Imagine you're in this situation. What are you even thinking? Like, your whole life's ultimately been building up to this moment and it's all just come crashing down. And maybe my normal argument here would be to say that, okay, long term, if this was to happen in the short term, then maybe long term it's for the best. But I feel like this could so easily have been avoided. Jack, I don't know, like his points, I gotta say, he's got a great name. His points are too harsh. You can make mistakes in life and that can be fine and not have to cause the end of an engagement. Surely, I know you've been friends with Sarah for a long time, but surely he can understand where you're coming from. And if he knows you well enough, he'll see how nice and genuine you are as a person. And maybe he can understand that you have just been walked over and used for a long time, maybe without you even knowing it. But the fact that he's just like, nah, sacked you off instantly, it's not a good look. As for Sarah and Matt, yeah, it's unfortunate that they were ever a part of your lives. They are a disgraceful duo, I've got to say. Who's worse, Sarah or Matt? Or Jack? Let me know down below. A really interesting but ultimately very sad story. Hope you enjoyed nonetheless.